Yeah.
All right, our next question also came from the Nick of Time show, came from a guy, Jay Ellis, from the Nick of Time show. And he had a question. He said, along that same train of thought, following Lee, can we say Kolek replacing Campaign? Can we see Kolek replacing Campaign? I think is what Jay Ellis meant next season. I think this should happen. Like, I was very impressed with Campaign. I'm not going crazy in Summer League when I spoke to him and also watched him play. I was impressed. Him and Hawkporty stood out to me in Summer League last year. How they worked together in the pick and roll. Kolek's playmaking ability. I liked him in college at Marquette. I think can run the team. We've seen it. I wish we could have seen a little more of him this year. I'm not on we should play Tyler Kolek and he would save the season, folks that are out there. I'm not on that. But he probably should have gotten the game last night a little earlier. That being said, yeah, I think so. Campaign's a nice backup point guard, but I think the Knicks need some more diversity in the playmaking at the backup point guard. Bryan, I think you would agree. And empowering someone like Kolek to give you that 10 to 12 minutes a night off the bench, backing up Brunson, I think will be huge. He could push the pace. He can get other guys involved. He's a decent shooter from the outside. Defensively, you might have some concerns, but I'm like, Campaign's been fine at times. It's been a roller coaster with Campaign, but I think they need to make an upgrade. I think the Knicks could also use that money, the way I look at it, in terms of their cap elsewhere, that they can upgrade something else if they use Kolek as a backup. And that's how you get your bench better. If you can slot in Kolek and Dadier or one of those guys, you're going to save money that you're spending now on Precious Achiuwa Campaign and maybe be able to upgrade elsewhere. So I think those are the things the Knicks have to look at. I see it happening because I know the Knicks are high on Kolek. But, Tibbs likes his veterans, as Bryan mentioned. And what if they see another veteran point guard out in the market that they like? I personally wouldn't like that move. I think you should go with Kolek, but that's my take. What do you say, Bryan?
I'd really like to know if he can play. Is probably the main thing. We just haven't seen him. He doesn't have there's not a ton of resume even there from Westchester. We're just kind of going off college where he looked great. He's a playmaker. I like pass first point guards. I need to know if he can play first and foremost. So I think what's going to happen is Campaign's contract is expiring. We're not expecting a reunion. That would surprise me if they keep him on a one-year deal. I think that would piss off a lot of people too. But I think they're bringing in a veteran point guard also. And to sort of, how when you have a young quarterback in the NFL and you bring in the veteran to compete with them, but really you want the young guy to win the job. This has happened. I don't know how many times it's happened with Anthony Richardson, probably most recently. They brought in Joe Flacco and it's like, listen, this should be your job, but prove to us you can beat this guy out first. This happens literally all the time. I think here is probably going to be something similar. They may just sign a minimum backup point guard, veteran type of dude. And it's like, all right, you or Kolek, you guys are going to battle it out. And it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if we don't see a lot of Kolek even at the start of next year. I think to some degree, Kolek, he's listen, I think he could be good and a rotation piece and a legitimate backup point guard. He still has to kind of prove it. And ultimately, he has to prove it to Tibbs. And right now, he's a rookie, so maybe he's not getting the opportunity to do that. But, yeah.
See, I would rather save that money on the minimum and just give Kolek the job, see how he does. If he can't handle it, then you go sign somebody.
Minimum is nothing. Doesn't count against your grand plans or whatever the case may be. So
I think it really depends on what else they do with their cap in this offseason. That's another thing, too, because they don't have a lot of space. They're up against the second apron. They're trying to stay under it again for another year. At some point, they're going to have to go over it to push themselves into contention. But I think that's really what matters. If it was me, I'd just give Kolek the job. I think you probably could turn that money elsewhere into upgrading for a better backup four on your roster. But we'll see. That's how I would play it.